Each real estate photographer knows that it's not that easy to create appealing photos of the kitchen. To emphasize the best parts of this room, you should know how to arrange the space, choose a focal point, and what lighting equipment to use. To take professional kitchen photographs, it's not enough to set a tripod, adjust your camera, and click a release button. The following post contains helpful tips for each stage of your shoot to highlight the best areas of a kitchen and hide drawbacks. Number 1. Consider staging. You may mistakenly think that staging is not about kitchen photography. In fact, you should stage the space to create a cozy atmosphere and make viewers think they're at home. You can just put a bowl of fruit on the table or a cutting board with sliced bread on the tabletop. Experiment with interior photography ideas. Use fresh flowers to make a room brighter and more colorful. Add different thematic props, etc. However, don't overdo staging. Your task is to add several objects to make the kitchen look appealing for clients, not to distract them with unnecessary things. Number 2. Remember about leading lines. To create an appropriate composition, refresh your knowledge of how to use leading lines. You may check the vertical lines in the kitchen or bathroom photo to better grasp the idea. Mind that if you tilt your camera up or down, you will get slanted foreground or background lines, creating the impression of a room falling over. Of course, you can correct such drawbacks in Photoshop using the skew tool. However, remember that it's easier to take a shot that requires minimum improvements. Number 3. Find your angles. Kitchen photography requires shooting from various angles. Buyers want to see a room with different sides, so keep this in mind. Try to compose a frame with the camera as straight as possible. This way, you can avoid a tilting effect. Always remember the correct photography composition. Don't tilt the camera up or down since lines in the frame will be off balance. No matter how many shots you've taken and from what angles, you need a straight, horizontal photograph covering a room. Thus, viewers can see the whole picture and better evaluate the space. Number 4. Make sure everything is clean in the frame. Real estate photography is the genre that requires all items to be clean in photos. The same applies to kitchen photography. Notify the owners or people in charge of the property that a kitchen should be prepared for a photo shoot beforehand. Plus, it's recommended to get rid of the small things like waste baskets, brooms, brushes, etc. Make sure all lamps and light fixtures work properly. You can polish a photograph at the last stage by using raw photo editors like Photoshop. But again, it requires additional time. Number 5. Maximize natural light. To get high-quality photos of the kitchen, you need a lot of natural light. So you should draw curtains apart and raise the window blinds. Don't forget about overhead lights and combine them with natural lighting to get the desired result. However, no matter how many light fixtures the kitchen has, natural lighting is the most effective thing in our case. Number 6. Bracket your exposures to overcome difficult lighting. Mind that even kitchens with super big windows may be really dark. The point is that a very dynamic range makes windows too bright while the rest of the space is very dark. To fix this problem, you have to bracket the exposures and blend them together. As a result, you will get one professionally exposed picture. You can perform this operation using the auto exposure bracketing feature of your camera. Take several shots at different exposure levels. Besides, you can practice HDR photography in this case, not setting up lighting equipment in the kitchen. What's more, the bracketing photography technique is a budget-friendly method to get qualitative shots without buying additional artificial lighting equipment. Number 7. Choose a camera mode. Sometimes, to take photos of the kitchen, shooters use the Aperture Priority mode. It delivers great results since you get full control over the aperture and the ISO. The camera in its turn determines a shutter speed, providing extra control over the exposure. In general, this mode is convenient for a photographer since he or she doesn't have to control all 3 settings. The best thing about using the Aperture Priority mode is that you can choose the aperture necessary to get super sharp pics. Of course, you shouldn't forget about the manual camera mode. Manual mode allows adjusting all important settings to get excellent shots. Number 8. Use the correct aperture. When taking photos of the kitchen, the aperture and depth of field should be f4 or f2.8. If you need to widen the aperture, you should select a smaller f number. Mind that the aperture directly affects the depth of field. For example, Small f numbers minimize the depth of field, while large f numbers maximize it. If you want viewers to focus on a particular detail like a tea set or cooking device on the countertop, use a smaller f number to blur the background. Number 9. Balance the shutter speed. Remember that you shouldn't photograph with a shutter speed lower than 1/52. This parameter should be around 1/60. As a rule, a photographer adjusts the aperture and ISO first, and only then he or she sets the shutter speed based on the exposure. Number 10. Choose the right lens. You're completely wrong if you think that you can't do without wide-angle lenses when dealing with kitchen photography. Wide-angle lenses can create distortion in the frame. Plus, objects located close to the camera seem bigger than they really are, while faraway objects appear tiny. Thus, a standard lens is more suitable for such purposes. Take a step away to capture what you need. It's recommended to use a high-quality universal lens for real estate photography. Attach it to a 35mm digital camera with a bubble level and start taking images. Number 11. Use a tripod to avoid shaking. One of the most important components of real estate photography equipment is a tripod. We recommend using a basic camera mount tripod and a remote shutter release to avoid blurriness. With a tripod for real estate photography, you can get truly sharp images. Even if you have super stable hands, like a surgeon, there are no reasons to risk and end up with blurry pics. Number 12. Choose the right props. It would be great to get props in one color. Plus, they should be simple. Focus on the materials and textures in the frame. Don't forget about the architecture. By using props, you can create a welcoming and cozy atmosphere in the kitchen. However, don't overdo them. You photograph the kitchen, not the props. What I mean is that white tulips look better than a bouquet of mixed flowers. Also, concentrate on the details that make the space look integral, like DIYs, a coffee collection, teacup storage, etc. Your props should relate to various parts of a composition. Viewers' eyes should move around the kitchen photograph and notice similar colors, shapes, and materials in various items. That's it for the video. If you enjoyed it, kindly like the video and subscribe to our channel.